Did you know 1 in 4 engine failures come from small oil change mistakes? And guess what? It destroys your engine, costing you thousands in repairs. And most drivers don't even realize they're making it. In this video, I'll reveal the 17 costly oil change mistakes that's wrecking your car and how to avoid them. Stick around until the end, because mistake number 3 alone has caused millions of car engines to fail. Let's dive in. Mistake number 17, double gasketing. This one's like a magic trick, except instead of pulling a rabbit out of a hat, you're pulling the life out of your engine. When you remove your old oil filter, sometimes the rubber O-ring decides to throw a farewell party and stick to the engine block. Install your new filter without checking. Congratulations! You've just created a double gasket sandwich that'll spray oil everywhere, faster than a broken fire hydrant. But here's what they don't tell you. Your engine goes from lubricated to liquidated in seconds. This invisible trap has fooled even master mechanics because that stuck gasket looks innocent enough. But when that engine fires up, you've got 2 gaskets trying to do one job, creating gaps that destroy oil pressure faster than you can say, expensive mistake. The worst part? You won't know until it's too late. That engine might run for 30 seconds or 30 minutes before seizing, but once those metal parts start grinding without proper lubrication, you're looking at a complete rebuild. Some unlucky drivers have watched their engines die on the highway, leaving them stranded with a very expensive tow bill. Always wipe that filter mounting surface with a clean rag and visually inspect for any leftover rubber. It takes 10 seconds but saves you from turning your daily driver into a very expensive paperweight. Trust me, your engine will thank you by continuing to run. But if you think a sneaky gasket is bad, wait until you hear about this $2 mistake that costs thousands. Mistake number 16, reusing the drain plug washer. Here's a $2 mistake that'll cost you $2,000. That little copper or aluminum washer under your drain plug, it's designed to crush once. Every time you tighten that bolt, it flattens and deforms. Reuse it, and you've basically installed a leaky faucet under your engine. One tiny drip becomes a puddle becomes low oil, and low oil becomes, well, let's just say your engine won't be running anymore. But here's the part most drivers miss. Some DIY heroes try flipping it over like it's a pancake, thinking they're clever. Spoiler alert, physics doesn't work that way. A deformed washer can't handle engine vibrations, heat cycles, or pressure changes. New washers cost pocket change. New engines, that's mortgage payment territory. The leak usually starts small, maybe just a few drops after each drive. You think it's no big deal, maybe even ignore it completely. But engine oil has a way of finding every crack and crevice, and what starts as a drip becomes a steady stream that can drain your oil pan in hours instead of months. I've seen cars towed in with completely seized engines because the owner ignored a small leak from a reused washer. The repair bill, over $6,000 for a complete engine replacement. All because someone wanted to save 50 cents on a new copper washer. Speaking of filters, here's where most people turn a simple job into an expensive nightmare. Mistake number 15, over-tightening the oil filter. Look, I get it. You want that filter secure, but cranking it down with a wrench like you're trying to lift weights is a one-way ticket to filter hell. Over-tighten it, and you'll either crush the gasket or make it impossible to remove next time without a crowbar and some very colorful language. And here's the kicker. Nearly 25% of filter failures happen during installation, not operation. That's because people treat their oil filter like it's trying to escape. The golden rule, hand tight plus 3/4 of a turn. That's it. Your filter isn't going anywhere, and neither is your sanity during the next oil change. Over-tightened filters create a nightmare scenario for your next oil change. The filter housing can crack, the threads can strip, or the filter can literally weld itself to the mounting surface. I've seen mechanics spend hours trying to remove an over-tightened filter, sometimes having to punch holes in it just to get leverage. The irony, a properly installed filter creates a better seal than an over-tightened one. The gasket needs just enough pressure to compress and form a proper seal. Any more pressure, and you're actually making it less effective while setting yourself up for future headaches. But here's where things get really expensive, literally leaving money on your garage floor. Mistake number 14, draining cold oil. Draining cold oil is like trying to pour honey uphill. You're leaving behind 40% of the nasty stuff your engine wants gone. Cold oil is thick, stubborn, and clings to every surface like a bad relationship. All that metal debris, carbon sludge, and general engine gunk, it's throwing a going away party in your oil pan while you think you're being thorough. But here's the truth. The Society of Automotive Engineers confirms that cold oil has up to 10 times the viscosity of warm oil. That means most of your contaminants are staying put, mixing with your fresh oil like a toxic cocktail. Warm your engine for 5 minutes before draining. Hot oil flows like water and takes all the troublemakers with it. Cold oil also takes forever to drain completely, which means you'll be standing there for 20 minutes waiting for what seems like the last few drops. Even then, you're not getting everything out. Those horizontal surfaces and oil galleries are still coated with thick, contaminated oil that'll mix with your fresh stuff. Think about it this way. Would you wash your dishes with cold, thick soap that can't reach into corners? Of course not. Same principle applies to your engine. Warm oil is thin, flows easily, and actually suspends contaminants, so they drain out instead of staying behind to contaminate your new oil. Now here's a mistake that sounds helpful but is actually engine suicide. Mistake number 13. Overfilling oil. If a little oil is good, more must be better, right? Wrong. Overfilling your engine is like giving it a foam bath it never asked for. Extra oil gets whipped into a frothy mess by your crankshaft, creating bubbles that can't lubricate anything. The result? Your engine thinks it's running on cappuccino instead of motor oil. But let's call it what it really is. This aeration turns your oil into a useless foam that can't protect moving parts. Increased friction, overheating, blown seals. It's like your engine is having a very expensive nervous breakdown. Some people think they're being extra careful, but they're actually sabotaging their own engine. The crankshaft isn't designed to touch oil. It's supposed to spin freely above the oil level. When you overfill, the crankshaft starts whipping the oil like a blender, creating air bubbles that destroy the oil's ability to form a protective film on metal surfaces. Even worse, that excess pressure from overfilling can blow out seals and gaskets throughout your engine. Front and rear main seals, valve cover gaskets, oil pan gaskets, they're all designed to handle normal oil pressure, not the chaos created by an overfilled crankcase. One blown seal can cost more to fix than 10 proper oil changes. Wait, there's an even sneakier way to starve your engine of protection. Mistake number 12, not filling the new oil filter. Most oil filters hold nearly a quart of oil. Install it dry, and you're setting up your engine for the automotive equivalent of a dry martini, except there's nothing classy about the damage this causes. During startup, your engine runs without proper lubrication for those critical first seconds, causing wear that would make a NASCAR pit crew cringe. And just when you think that's bad, this mistake increases engine wear by up to 50% during startup, because metal parts grind against each other while waiting for oil pressure to build. It's like asking your engine to run a marathon on empty before giving it water. Pre-fill your filter with fresh oil before installation. Those first few seconds after startup are when most engine wear occurs. Your oil pump has to fill the empty filter, pressurize the system, and circulate oil to all the critical components. During that time, your engine is running basically dry, with metal grinding against metal at thousands of RPMs. High-performance engines are especially vulnerable to this mistake because they have tighter tolerances and higher operating stresses. Some race engines have been completely destroyed just from a few dry startups. Pre-filling the filter eliminates this dangerous gap and protects your engine from the moment you turn the key. Speaking of preparation, here's where even the pros mess up. Mistake number 11, forgetting to remove the oil filler cap before draining. This seems harmless, but keeping that oil filler cap on during draining is like trying to empty a bottle through a straw while covering the mouth. Physics isn't your friend here. That vacuum prevents complete drainage, leaving contaminated oil behind to spoil your fresh stuff. But here's the catch. The suction created in your crankcase slows drainage to a crawl and traps dirty oil in passages and corners. Sure, it looks fine from the outside, but your engine knows the difference between a complete change and a half-hearted attempt. Always remove the cap first. Let gravity do its job properly. That vacuum effect also puts stress on engine seals and gaskets as the oil tries to drain against suction pressure. Some seals can actually get pulled inward, potentially causing leaks or seal damage. It's like trying to suck a thick milkshake through a tiny straw. Something's going to give. Professional shops know this trick because they want complete drainage in minimum time. They pop that cap immediately because incomplete oil changes mean comeback customers with engine problems. You don't want to be that customer explaining why your fresh oil already looks dirty after 1,000 miles. If you made it here, we'll appreciate it if you kindly like the video. We got 10 more mistakes you or someone you know are most likely doing, which can cost you big time. You'll regret not knowing number 3. Because according to research, almost 90% of drivers do it. Anyways, mistake number 10, using the wrong oil type. Your engine isn't a democracy. It doesn't get to vote on what oil it wants. Using 5W30 instead of 0W20 might seem close enough, but close enough is how you turn a $40 oil change into a $4,000 engine replacement. Wrong viscosity oil is like wearing the wrong size shoes. Uncomfortable, inefficient, and eventually painful. But let's be honest, too thick. Your oil pump struggles like it's lifting weights, and cold starts become torture sessions for your engine. Too thin? Your engine parts grind against each other like they're angry at each other. Modern engines are precision machines built for specific oil grades. Check your manual, people. Modern engines have incredibly tight tolerances. We're talking about clearances measured in thousandths of an inch. Oil that's too thick can't fit into these tight spaces, starving critical components of lubrication. Oil that's too thin can't maintain proper pressure and film strength, allowing metal-to-metal contact. Fuel economy also takes a hit with wrong viscosity oil. Thick oil creates internal friction that makes your engine work harder, burning more fuel. Thin oil allows increased blow-by and oil consumption. Either way, you're paying extra at the pump while potentially damaging your engine. The manufacturer spent millions testing the exact oil specification your engine needs. Trust their homework. But here's a mistake that'll fool you into thinking everything's fine until it's too late. Mistake number 9. Checking oil level immediately after adding oil. After adding fresh oil, checking the dipstick immediately is like checking your bank balance before your paycheck clears. The numbers lie. That oil hasn't circulated through the filter or filled all the passages yet. You might think you're full, but you're actually running dangerously low. And it gets worse. Even quick lube shops mess this up by relying on preset fill amounts instead of actual verification. Run the engine for a minute, let it settle for 10 minutes, then check. That second reading is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Your engine doesn't care what the initial dipstick says. And speaking of timing, here's where most DIY heroes crash and burn. Mistake number 8, over-tightening the drain plug. Tight is right doesn't apply to drain plugs. Over-tighten that bolt and you'll strip the threads in your oil pan faster than you can say, expensive mistake. We're talking about turning a routine maintenance job into a major repair that'll have you eating ramen noodles for months. But here's what they don't tell you. Stripped threads in an oil pan can cost over $1,000 to repair, turning your Saturday afternoon project into a wallet-draining nightmare. Tighten until the washer compresses. Then, stop. Your drain plug isn't trying to escape. Stop treating it like a flight risk. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're about to get into the really nasty stuff. Mistake number 7, using low quality or wrong filters. Buying the cheapest filter is like hiring the cheapest surgeon. Sure, you'll save money up front, but the consequences can be catastrophic. Cheap filters have weak bypass valves, poor filtration media, and sealing surfaces that couldn't keep water out of a submarine. But here's the part most drivers miss. These bargain filters often have different thread pitches or improper sealing surfaces that cause leaks and low oil pressure. Your engine's filtration system is like its kidney. Would you trust your kidney to the lowest bidder? Stick to reputable brands that meet OEM specifications. But here's where even expensive mistakes pale in comparison. Mistake number 6, forgetting to lubricate the oil filter O-ring. Installing a filter with a dry O-ring is like trying to slide down a water slide with no water. Things are going to get rough fast. That dry rubber can tear during installation, creating leaks that'll drain your oil faster than a sieve drains water. Even worse, the dry O-ring can bond to the engine surface like superglue, making your next filter change feel like you're trying to remove a barnacle with your bare hands. This simple oversight causes more filter-related failures than any other mistake. A dab of fresh oil on that rubber ring takes 2 seconds but saves you from future headaches. The lubrication also helps the O-ring seat evenly and compress properly, creating a better seal than a dry installation ever could. It's like the difference between trying to put on a wetsuit dry versus using soap and water. One goes on smoothly, the other fights you every step of the way. Dry rubber has a tendency to grab and stick during installation, often tearing or rolling out of its groove. When this happens, you get an immediate leak that can drain your oil pan in minutes rather than thousands of miles. Some people have literally watched their oil pressure drop to zero within blocks of leaving their driveway. Now brace yourself for this timing disaster. Mistake number 5. Ignoring your driving habits when setting your oil change schedule. Following the manual's oil change interval blindly is like following GPS into a lake. Technically, you're following directions, but you're still drowning. Short trips under 5 miles, stop-and-go traffic, and towing put more stress on your oil than a normal commute. But here's the catch. These severe driving conditions prevent oil from reaching proper operating temperature, allowing moisture and contaminants to build up like sludge in a coffee pot. Change it 30–40% sooner than recommended, or watch your engine age faster than a president in office. Your oil doesn't care what the manual says if you're punishing it daily. Short trips are particularly brutal because your engine never gets hot enough to evaporate moisture and fuel contamination from the oil. This creates the acidic sludge that coats internal components and accelerates wear. Your oil might look clean on the dipstick, but it's actually become a corrosive paste. Stop-and-go traffic creates constant heat cycles that break down oil additives faster than highway driving. Every time you accelerate from a stop, your engine works harder and generates more contamination. The oil manual assumes normal driving, not the automotive torture test that is rush hour traffic or daily short trips to the grocery store. And here's where physics becomes your worst enemy. Mistake number 4, checking oil level on uneven ground. Checking your oil on a slope is like weighing yourself while standing on one foot. The reading is useless. Your engine holds several quarts of oil, and even a slight incline can make that oil pool to one side, giving you a reading that's about as accurate as a weather forecast. But let's call it what it really is. This seemingly innocent mistake leads to overfilling or underfilling, both of which can damage your engine. Oil pooling away from the pickup tube gives false low readings, while tilting toward the dipstick gives false high readings. Always check on level ground after the engine has been off for at least 10 minutes. Even a 2-degree slope can throw off your reading by half a quart or more. On a car with a 5-quart capacity, that's a 10% error, enough to cause real problems. Park nose up and your dipstick reads low, so you add oil and overfill. Park nose down and it reads high, so you think you're fine when you're actually running dangerously low. Professional shops always use level bays for oil services because they know accurate readings are critical for engine health. Your driveway might look flat, but unless you've checked it with a level, you're probably introducing error into every oil check. Find a truly flat surface, or risk making expensive mistakes based on false information. Here comes the mistake that destroys more engines than racing. Mistake number 3, skipping oil changes based on mileage only. Here's the thing about oil, it doesn't care about your odometer. Time kills oil just as much as miles do. Oil sitting in your engine for a year degrades from heat cycles, moisture, and contamination, even if you've only driven 1,000 miles. But here's what they don't tell you. Oil doesn't pause its aging process when your car sits in the garage. Acids form, seals dry out, and additives break down whether you drive 10 miles or 10,000 miles. Most manufacturers recommend changing oil every 6 months, or the mileage interval, whichever comes first. Ignore the time component, and you're basically marinating your engine in automotive death sauce. Oil degradation is a chemical process that happens regardless of mileage. Oxidation, thermal breakdown, and additive depletion occur over time, turning your protective oil into an acidic sludge that actually attacks engine components. Even in storage, oil absorbs moisture from the air and begins to form corrosive acids. The worst part, time-degraded oil looks fine on the dipstick, but has lost its protective properties. You think you're running good oil, but you're actually running engine poison. Some engines have been completely destroyed by year-old oil that had less than 2,000 miles on it. Fresh oil every 6 months isn't just good practice, it's engine insurance. But wait, there's an even more basic mistake that'll catch you off guard. Mistake number 2, using leftover oil from previous changes. That half-empty oil jug from last year, it's not vintage wine. It doesn't get better with age. Used motor oil contains acids, moisture, and contaminants that'll attack your fresh oil like a virus. Mixing old with new is like adding poison to medicine, except the patient is your engine and the cure costs thousands. But let's be honest, even unused oil that's been sitting open degrades from exposure to air and moisture. Oxidation turns that golden oil into a thick, acidic mess that can't protect anything. Always use fresh oil from a sealed container. Your engine deserves better than your leftover science experiment from the garage shelf. Opened oil containers are particularly problematic because they allow moisture and airborne contaminants to enter. What starts as perfectly good oil becomes oxidized and contaminated just from sitting around. The acids formed during this process can actually etch metal surfaces and destroy seals. Even sealed containers can be problematic if they've been stored in temperature extremes. Oil that's been frozen and thawed or heated and cooled repeatedly can have additive separation and viscosity changes that make it unsuitable for use. When in doubt, buy fresh oil. It's the cheapest insurance policy your engine can have. And now, the mistake that's probably happening in someone's garage right now. Mistake number 1, not running the engine after the change to check for leaks. Finishing an oil change without running the engine is like cooking dinner and not tasting it before serving. You might think everything's perfect, but disasters love to reveal themselves when you least expect it. A small leak caught early is a $2 fix. A small leak discovered after driving 500 miles. That's a potential engine rebuild waiting to happen. And here's the kicker. Running the engine circulates oil through all systems and reveals problems, while you can still fix them easily. Loose drain plugs, improperly seated filters, and installation errors show themselves immediately when tested. Don't let a 5-minute test run turn into a $5,000 lesson. Your engine will tell you if something's wrong. You just have to listen. During that test run, you're also building oil pressure for the first time with new components. This is when loose connections reveal themselves, when improperly installed filters start leaking, and when you discover if you forgot to reinstall the drain plug properly. Better to find out in your driveway than on the highway. The test also ensures your oil pressure is normal and that all systems are functioning correctly. Some engines have oil pressure sensors that need to see proper pressure before they'll allow normal operation. Running the engine confirms everything is working as designed and gives you peace of mind that your oil change was successful. There you have it. 15 oil change mistakes can seriously harm your engine. Seriously, how many of these did you actually know? Be honest in the comments below. And if you learned something new today, hit that like button. Also, did you know that there are mechanic scams you most likely are falling for, costing you money on unnecessary repairs? Click this video to know if you're getting scammed or not. Trust me, you'd be shocked by it.